What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Counteract Podcast. My name is Allison Lind. I'm the host of the People in NYC segment, and today I am coming to you guys with an extremely exciting episode. I am so geeked to be sharing this interview with you guys. Today, we will be talking to someone who you may recognize as the creative genius behind a popular, controversial photo shoot with well-known detransitioner Chloe Cole that was circulating the internet back in October of last year. She is a super amazing person. I can't wait for you to hear from her. Before I introduce her, I do have to tell you guys about our amazing sponsors. You know them, you love them. I don't know why you haven't switched to them yet. And they are Patriot Mobile, America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They are an example of putting the cause ahead of their profits, and I am super proud to be partnering with them. Patriot Mobile offers dependable nationwide coverage, giving you access to all three major networks, which means you get the same coverage you've been accustomed to, except you know that the money that you're giving them is going to causes that you support. When you switch to Patriot Mobile, you support the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the sanctity of life, and our military, veterans, and first responder heroes. Their customer service team is 100% US based, and they make switching super easy. You can keep your number, your phone, and your upgrade. All you have to do is go to patriotmobile.com/counteract or call 972-PATRIOT. They will help you find the best plans for your needs. Once again, that is patriotmobile.com/counteract or 972-PATRIOT. Join us and make the switch today. Alrighty, so without further ado, in this interview, my guests and I talk everything from having crazy worldview switches to getting canceled in college to even as creatives, what we want to see more from the conservative sphere moving forward. I know you guys are going to love this episode, and our guest is such an amazing, well-spoken young woman. Please welcome to the Counteract Podcast, Maggie Butera. Okay, yay. Are we in? Yes. Okay, we're going. Awesome. Okay, thank you so much for joining me, Maggie. Yeah, of course. Just to get started, do you want to tell the listeners who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Maggie Butera. I am a graphic designer for social political issues, and I also work for XXXY Athletics, doing their social media, videos, graphic design, website, all kinds of stuff with them. And then I just kind of started getting into doing commentary and stuff like that. And I am a Christian and I'm a conservative, and I recently graduated from art school at Savannah's College of Art and Design, and I am just now kind of getting my foot into the real world.
Amazing. Yeah, that's a pretty loaded like job description, which is so cool. Right. No, but it's yeah. I love XX. I can't even say the name of it.
XXXY.
XXXY. Right. I love what they're doing though. I've been seeing their stuff around, and yeah, super awesome that
They're
you get to work for them.
amazing. The
Yeah.
founders are awesome, and just everyone that works for the company is super cool. They're super pro free speech, and just like all of us are kind of like it's a melting pot of a bunch of different people and beliefs, and they're just I feel like I couldn't have started out with a better company coming out of college. I got so lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Awesome. That's so cool. I wanted to ask a really big reason why I wanted to interview you was just to know more about your story, your testimony. I know you shared some of it on Instagram about like switching worldviews in college, and yeah, I know that you recently did a photo shoot with Chloe Cole. Was it in your last semester or your like second to last semester of college?
So we're on a quarter system. So it was my
Okay.
like first quarter of the year. I had two after that. Instead of doing,
Okay,
I
gotcha.
didn't do like summer quarter. So yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, you were close to the end.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you did this really powerful like photo shoot with Chloe, and it ended up getting, a lot of backlash, but also a lot of really like positive attention. So yeah, I just wanted to ask your story of like, how'd you get to that point?
Yeah.
Through college, through your life, any of it?
It's definitely a long story, and I'll try to kind of summarize it.
Yeah, no worries.
I started out in college, like I was raised as a Christian and as a conservative, and I felt really strongly about those views going into college. I've always known I wanted to go into design for social and political issues. Like I've always been
Mm-hmm.
passionate about that. For a long time, it was like more mental health issues related. Like I really got into all of that. Um, and once I got to college, like I pretty quickly, like basically everyone around me was very left leaning. And sorry, my dog is like having a heart attack while she's sleeping. You
All
can
good.
see
Oh no.
she's
You're good.
everyone around me though was very left leaning, and it kind of brought me into that mindset of like I want to be a loving Christian so badly, and I basically was kind of just told like to be conservative is so hateful, it's not loving, like oh like people back home are so unaccepting, but all of those things. And I loved my friends I made, like I still love those
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
that I'm not friends with anymore. And I just kind of really focused in and honed in on wanting to be the loving and accepting Christian. And I kind of just like got away from what the gospel really was. And so I kind of after probably about 6 or 7 months there, I became pretty liberal and like started to just hop over to that side. It was very much like groupthink, and I couldn't really defend my beliefs that I had growing up either. Like I didn't,
Yeah.
and I wasn't strong enough in them to be like, I wasn't strong enough to like stand up against my peers and be like, no, I believe that. Like
Right.
I voted for Trump in 2020, and all of my friends, like I remember there was one time I was talking with one of my friends and I said, I think that our military should have even more funding than what we have right now. And they were like, did you vote for Trump? Like I vividly remember this conversation. I was like, absolutely
Yeah.
not. Like I was so embarrassed that like, not even
Yeah.
embarrassed, but I knew I would lose my friends if I like said that I had voted for him.
Right.
So no one knew in college that I'd voted for him except like one friend that was like secretly a conservative as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I pretty quickly, though, kind of started switching over to the more liberal beliefs. And then I stopped believing in God altogether. I very much was a part of the pro choice movement. I was very, these are women's rights and we need to do this, blah, blah, blah. And I just kind of got very much into like all of the gay pride stuff. All my friends were LGBTQ, and I wanted to, show my love and support and all these different things. And so then at some point, like, I still wanted to do research. Like, I was interested in religion and everything. And at this point, I was in Lacoste, France, studying abroad. And I was reading Case for Christ at the time. And also, like, so many people that were on campus with me were transgender of like some sort, and or like didn't identify with male or all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And I got like really interested in it because I was like, I don't understand this, but like I want to study it. I want to learn more about it. And so I was watching documentaries, I was listening to people's stories, and that is when I discovered like the detransitioner movement. And at this time, I was becoming more conservative, and I was like really invested in Case for Christ. And once I finished that book, I was like, there's no way this story isn't real. Like, I'm like sold. And so I like
Mm-hmm.
rededicated my life for Christ and was like, I'm living my life for Christ now. I had like always struggled with mental health issues, and like horrifically struggled with mental health issues.
Wow.
Since high school, I was on like a cocktail of medication, like so much stuff. And I also like made my mental health issues like my whole personality. Like it was bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I like once I gave my life back to God, like gone. Like I stopped struggling with it. And like I know
Wow.
this is not the case for every Christian. Like I was a Christian for a long time and had mental health issues. Like I know
Mm-hmm.
that's not the case, but for everyone, but I was very blessed in that moment, and like God just lifted that all off my shoulders. And so I leaned off my medication, kind of cold turkeyed it, which I not a good idea. Don't do that. But it for me like it
Yeah.
worked. So like
Yeah.
don't do it. And so, yeah, I got off all my medication and I had watched a documentary that Chloe Cole was in, of many documentaries I'd watched at this time when I was like
Mhm.
really getting into like hearing detransitioner stories.
Yeah.
And it was on Epic Times, or Epoch Times. But it was a
Oh.
detransitioner documentary or something about like the trans craze essentially.
Yeah.
And basically, so I thought Chloe Cole's story was so powerful, and like I remember she was in this just like super cute outfit in the video or in the documentary, and I was like, oh my gosh, like she's so cool. And I just really thought like, wow, I wish like a magazine like Vogue would like cover her story and like make it like beautiful, because she deserves to have her story told, but they would never share a story like that. And
Yeah.
I thought, like, well, conservatives are the only people that would share a story like that, but I don't think they'd make it very pretty, because I
Mhm.
think that, like, you would understand this as an artist, but I
Yeah.
think that, like, as conservatives, like, there's just a struggle to be artistic, and, like, there's not quite an understanding for beauty in the art world as there is on the left. They're very good at packaging,
Mhm.
making it look pretty. So I basically came up with like a project brief and DM'd Chloe, and I just like commented on her Instagram a couple of times to like, hey, I have a photo shoot idea. And basically the whole prompt of it was called Duality of Woman. And it was basically just saying like, you can express your masculine and feminine sides by like dressing however you want, but you can't change your gender. And so there was a masculine side, a feminine side, and then the third piece of it, we just kind of called it like newspaper dress. And it was a dress made by a girl in the fibers department at SCAD named Caroline, and I like did like the graphic design on the newspapers, and we like just basically took all these real life detransitioner stories and put them on the
Wow.
newspapers, and then Caroline made the dress because it was kind of like Chloe's representing this like movement of detransition. She's like one of the
Yeah.
biggest people, speaking out against it.
Yeah.
Um, and so I DM'd her, and she was like totally on board with it. And I was like, cool, great. And so we got everything together, and basically I DM'd like a ton of students, like a ton. And I only looked for people with something about them being Christian in their bio, because I felt like Christians would really be the only
Yeah.
people willing to do this with me.
Yeah.
And so I found a girl that was a painter, and she said that she could probably figure out how to do the makeup. And I was like, perfect. And then Caroline was on board to do the dress, and then I found a girl that worked for the photo department, and asked if she could rent out the studio for us and like help with all the lighting, because I wasn't a photo student. And she
Mhm.
said, yeah, like, but she was like, she didn't want her name to be on it, and I was like, totally cool. We won't share your name, but like, we appreciate you helping. And so
Yes.
we did that, and then got into all the project stuff. That's a long story of it all, but that's
Yeah.
kind of how it happened.
No, that's amazing. That's so powerful. So, okay, so the timeline of like you kind of coming back to Christ and then getting into this photo shoot, like how long of a period was that? Was that like,
I gave my life to Christ probably February. We're in 2024 right now, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Can you remember? I
Yeah,
gave my
I
life
know.
to Christ in February probably of 2023. And then um it's so yeah, it'd probably been that. I mean, at that same time I was like planning the shoot. So it was like during that whole time. And then
Wow.
the shoot happened, I believe it was like September 22nd, 23rd. We had the shoot, and then October 12th. I just remember that because it's my sibling's birthday. Is when
Mhm.
I like released the shoot. So that's
Wow.
kind of like the timeline of all of that.
Wow. That is crazy, but also so powerful. I think it's so interesting how the Lord, like, when we are invested, like when we're like, okay, like here's all of me, he's like, all right, get on mission.
Yeah.
I just think, yeah, that's really beautiful. Yeah, what was it like having those dissenting views and doing this project in college? Like, were you super anxious during all of it, or was it just kind of like, I know this is what I need to be doing, and we're gonna do it?
I wish I could say that I was like, oh, whatever, I don't care what people think about me.
Hmm.
But it was not like that at all. I like right as I posted it, I like texted, or I was on FaceTime with my fiance, who was my boyfriend at the time, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm freaking out right now, like, and I just, like, closed out of the app, and, like, it actually started with, like, a really positive response. Like, people
Wow.
that were even friends of mine that ended up being really angry about it were like, this is really beautiful, you did a great job, and then, like, 4 hours into posting it, it switched, and everybody was like, screw you, F you. I was getting texts from my friends immediately, like, all my best friends that, like, I would have had at my wedding unfollowed me.
Wow.
I had, like, friends calling me that were like, you need to make an apology post and take this down. It's the only way to make it okay. And I was like, okay, I'm not sorry about it.
Yeah.
Voice, are you still there?
Yes, I'm so
Oh,
sorry. I was going on D&D. My bad.
totally fine. But yeah, I just was like, I'm not sorry. So, I'm not going to say that I'm sorry about it.
Yeah.
And basically, like, people were posting all across campus about it. People were trying to get me
Wow.
expelled. People were threatening to kill me. Somebody leaked my address.
Wow.
I had to, like, move out of the place that I lived at the time. And which, to be fair, I knew that I was going to have a bad backlash to the project.
Yeah.
Like, I knew it wasn't going to be pretty. I didn't know it was going to be how bad it was.
Yeah.
Like, I called the school, and the school was no help whatsoever. I sent them, like, a document of over, like, 100, maybe 200 students that were, like, cyberbullying me or, like, threatening my life.
Wow.
There was, like, a couple where I had to file police reports. Like, it was so bad. And I sent this to them, and they were like, yeah, like, there's just, like, not a lot we can do about it. And I was like, I was pissed off at this point, because I was like,
Right.
you guys, like, what do you mean? Like, I was like, if this was a trans student getting bullied the way I am right now, I guarantee you this would be looking a lot different. And so I got on a call with the dean of students, and she was like, I'm pretty mad at this time, so I wasn't being the sweetest.
Yeah.
Because I was so angry that they weren't helping me at all, or, like, and I loved SCAD, and I recommend SCAD still, but it was just the way they handled the situation.
Yeah.
And she was like, you have to understand, like, what you were talking about, like, you were kind of not saying things that were true in your thing. And I was like, which part of it? Like, that trans women are men, or, like, is there something I'm missing? And because I was mad.
Yeah.
And she was like, you just have to understand, like, there was a lack of research put into this project. And I was like, I was so mad at this point. I was like, explain to me like, do you want to sit down and talk about where I got this wrong? I was so unhappy with her.
Yeah.
And she just kind of, like, just kept saying that I was wrong, whatever. And I was like, that's fine. But at the end of the day, our school security does exist to protect our students. And, like, I would like a police officer to be able to go to class with me, like, or one of our SCAD, like, officers. And I basically just said, like, I wanted them to walk me, like, to, like, I was like, it was, like, really bad, like, gruesome.
Yeah.
It's like, from so many people, like, I was terrified. And so she was like, and I also, like, my dog went to class with me at the time. And so, like, everyone, like, you would know who I was because of my dog, because she went everywhere with me. She was a service dog. And so everyone, like, it wasn't hard to, like, point me out because of her. And so they said that they wouldn't do that. And so I was like, okay, like, I'll get a Savannah Police Department to go with me, basically. Basically, it all didn't end up working. Like, nobody was helping out. And so I decided to move online. I was in a dance class at the time that I had to move online and basically, like, submit videos of me dancing online, which is not cute. And so it was this whole thing. And so, yeah, all of my friends pretty quickly dropped me. And it also was, like, not a thing either where everybody was like, I just can't. Some people even were like, I kind of agree with you, but I can't associate with you. I had to take down, like, all of the photos I'd spent 4 years building my portfolio for my photography portfolio. Everyone made me take down the photos of them. People, like, it was just like nobody wanted to associate. And I had a really hard time with that because I loved my friends so much, and I loved my life in Savannah, Georgia. Like, I just loved everything there. And I had to, like, very abruptly, within, like, a week of posting the project, move back home. And I had a really hard time with that because, like, I loved my life there and I loved my friends there. And nobody wanted a thing to do with me after that. So that was definitely hard. And I never backed down on it. I never deleted a single comment. I never blocked a single person that said anything. Nothing like that. Like, I never backed down. I was very adamant. I believe this.
Mhm.
But it definitely, like, I really struggled with, like,
Yeah.
mean comments and, like, the cyberbullying and just,
Yeah.
like, losing all of my friends in, like,
Yeah.
the span of, like, a week was really
Right.
hard.
Yeah. That is incredibly hard. I honestly, I can't imagine. Like, I had, some backlash, but definitely
Yeah.
nothing to that extent. And I remember like tiny little comments would like get to me.
Yeah.
Um, so wow. So how'd you get through it, I guess?
I really think like so I had a couple friends back home that like were so good to me, and my fiance and his family, like
Mhm.
without them and my family, but they like helped me move everything out of SCAD. Like they literally drove like 8 hours to help me come move everything out and like move back to Tennessee. And like he has just been like so good and kind to me and like let me like get through all of this and like has been so understanding, and I think that helped so much. But also like not too long after it, like, so Jennifer Say, who's my boss now, she had DM'd me, and I'm like, so I got like my first like job opportunity from it, and I was like, this is so cool. And then like a lot of the girls that were like kind of in the conservative movement online like were being
Mhm.
so sweet and kind to me, and like people were sticking up for me, and I was like, wait, like there are people that are like gonna be nice to me and like still want to be my
Yeah.
friend. Um and so like getting through that, and also just realizing like what these people don't know me, they don't know my heart, and they don't know what God says about me. Like
Yeah.
God says that I'm so much more worth, like all of these things that these people are saying to me, like it's just not true, and it's not
Yeah.
what God believes about me.
Yeah.
And like just like knowing that the world hated Jesus first, like, and knowing that I'm standing on something true, that like
Hmm.
you can't change your gender, and like that is just such a fundamental belief that I have, that like sex and gender are the same thing and you cannot change your sex. And like once we start to break down that lie, there's just so many lies that follow it if we don't believe that one truth about like our biological sex. And so
Yeah.
like knowing that the Bible supports that, I'm kind of like whatever at this point now.
Yeah.
I'm like, say whatever you want about me, comment, tell me,
Hmm.
tell me, I don't even care anymore. Like it means
Yeah.
nothing at this point, but like
Yeah.
it took a lot of mean comments to get to where I'm like, I don't care.
Totally.
Like,
Right. Right. It's kind of like you get through the hardest part and then you're like, I'm basically invincible from this. Like there's no,
yeah, I'm like,
I
say
mean,
whatever you want.
right. Like I've probably heard it. Throw it at me.
Yeah.
Um, oh my gosh. I had a question, then I forgot what I was gonna say. Um, oh yeah, I was just gonna say, like, kudos to you for not backing down though. I think that's one of the best things that we have like in the conservative movement, that Ali Stuckey always says it, like share the arrows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and actually I didn't really realize this until maybe like a year ago, and I'd already been like canceled and whatever. Um, a friend of mine who actually fundamentally disagrees with me on everything, is like very liberal and, all of that stuff, very secular. Um, they were actually the one who said, like, it's impossible to get canceled if you refuse to apologize. So,
I totally agree with that. Like, your friend is so right, because like I'm kind of the mindset where it's like you can't cancel someone that doesn't give a crap about being canceled. Like
right.
you will not catch me making an apology video. Like
Hmm.
absolutely not. Like,
Right.
I'm not backing down.
Right. Totally. And I mean, because we as Christians even know, like, it's not loving to affirm a lie. Like,
Right.
it's not loving just because the world wants to hear an apology, which isn't even going to satisfy them, because,
Right.
we know that like true
Yeah.
satisfaction is in Christ. And
Right.
so if it takes burning at the stake to bring Christ to them, like, yeah, you just can't back down. And
Absolutely.
do you feel like it's been like, have you seen the fruit of that since then?
Oh my gosh, yes, in so many ways. Like I think that, because something that I care most about, like I care about Gen Z so much, and I'm sure you relate to that. and just like not allowing our generation to believe all the lies we've been sold, and
Yeah.
like not to believe, and like just not to believe the lies we've been sold, and not to get caught up in just like the entire culture that we live in, because I
Hmm.
did like anything that like we go against as Christians, anything I believe as a conservative, like I've been there, done that. So
Yeah.
like I would never judge anyone that is on that other side, and I think people don't understand that either. There's
Right.
not a single ounce of judgment coming from me because I've messed up in every way that you can. Um,
Hmm.
and I want Gen Z to understand that, and to understand that like it's okay to make all those mistakes and to change your mind, because like, and like you're gonna get canceled no matter what. Like the amount of
Yeah.
times I've seen people on the left that like aren't quite woke enough get canceled, like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, you're never gonna be
Yeah.
enough for the woke mob. And
Yeah.
so it's just kind of like, but I just really care about making a difference in Gen Z, and kind of
Yeah.
just turning our culture around with that. And I think we have seen a huge wave of conservatism, and I've like had girls reach out to me that were like just saying it's refreshing, or moms like it's refreshing seeing someone
Yeah.
in this generation stand up and say something, or like it's encouraged me in this way, and like that's all I care about. And like one DM like that literally
Yeah.
makes all the thousands of death threats and whatever all worth it. Like just one,
Hmm. Right. Yeah. That's so good. That's beautiful. And I've definitely been in the same boat. I actually realized, because I think sometimes nowadays, after like I basically came out as like pro-life. That was my whole thing.
Right,
And um ever since then, like God has used that. Like I'll post on Instagram without even thinking now, things that are like not even, about God, whatever it is. And it'll prompt people to like DM me, people from high school who I'm like, I'm sure that you probably hate me now. Like,
right,
the people from way in the past, you're like, do they even? I don't know. Um,
right,
and they'll DM me and be like, I love what you're standing for. Or like, thank you, like this changed my mind, or this helped me have this conversation with this person. I've even
yeah,
had friends, like, I've even had friends who have had abortions and who come to
mhm,
me and they're like, it like actually brings them closer to God because they're like,
really, that's
thank you
amazing.
for, right. And I think what you're saying about, um, just loving Gen Z through that, like that there is no judgment, that's something we so desperately need in the conservative movement, I think.
Right,
And that is what changes hearts and minds.
right,
Like when people realize like I made a mistake and then they know that like you were there to love them through it. Like I know we've heard stories, even Chloe Cole's story, like to look back and remember like who was actually, these people that I thought hated me at the time who were not affirming, like those were the people that were looking out for me. And I know that I can go to them
right.
now. And that's been so rewarding to see. Just in like so many different young people in our generation. But
I
yeah,
totally agree with you.
yeah,
And that's so cool too, that like so many like people reach out to you and been like that you're willing to stand up and speak about something, and people have noticed and are listening, because even if it's just like one person's mind that's being changed, like that's such a big impact, and you never know like
totally.
who they're going to change just from that one thing. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
it's amazing.
absolutely. Yeah. And that's like the model of disciple making, I feel like.
Yeah.
One believer, like one person coming to Christ, it changes their family and then their circle. And then like there's that, I forgot what it's called, but like where it's like you have your inner circle and then the like circle gets larger.
The onion almost like the
Yeah. It has some
yes,
kind of like technical name, but I think
yeah,
about that and how, like what you said, like that one DM is so much more impactful than every death threat, every lost friend, because that person is then able to like feel empowered and able to like know the truth and stand on the truth for their community.
yeah,
And yeah, I also, especially what you're doing, I think is so powerful because I don't see really any Gen Z taking the stance that you're taking in the way that you're taking it. Like I love that you're an artist and that you have like that you desire beauty, because I do think sometimes the conservative movement, we get caught up in the fight, which is,
right,
don't get me wrong, it's appealing. I love to feel like, I'm ready for battle and stuff, but um but ultimately we're preserving these things because God says they're like beautiful. Um,
Right.
and so, yeah, I love that you have the eye for that. I'm going on a tangent, but
You're good. It was a
um,
good tangent.
yeah, I think of Nehemiah, or like
Mhm.
you make me think of Nehemiah, um, and how when they had to like rebuild the wall for Jerusalem, and he has everyone just build the wall that's right in front of them, and the
Mhm.
wall is rebuilt in like 40 days, which is just unheard of at the time. I think
Right.
scholars say it would have taken them like decades to rebuild it, but because he said, "You take the place on the wall that's right in front of you." Like we will build this up faster and bigger and better and stronger. And so yeah, the fact that you're like taking that stance on the wall and like standing on truth, I think you're like holding it down for us really. And it's so encouraging to see Gen Z who are doing that,
Yeah.
because yeah, like if it means that you have to take the arrows, if it means I have to take the arrows, um for someone else to like get on board, then yeah, it's so worth it,
Worth
I
it. It
think.
is. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Like what's, we walked so they could run, like that kind of thing. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. I wanted to ask if you have any advice for Gen Z that are navigating these tough cultural moments, either in school, college, even the workspace. I know we're now like becoming adults, which is scary. Um, yeah, like if there's something like you wish you would have known, or just something that you would encourage like other people dealing with these things. Yeah.
I wish that I wouldn't have been like so easily deceived by the world.
Mm.
Like I spent a long time conforming my beliefs to the people around me and to the world, like adjusting what the Bible said so that I could be loving and cool and like accepting. And like
Mhm.
just at the end of the day, like the Bible wasn't written to make you feel good about yourself and to accept all these different things like that. Like that just wasn't the purpose. And
Yeah.
like my purpose is just to share the gospel and share the love of Jesus Christ. And like I think that if I could just give one piece of advice, it would just not to be a coward. And like I know that it comes off
Mhm.
like it's harsh, but like I was, and like I was such a sheep, and like I was so easily deceived and followed the people around me, and like I also was so deceived by like TikTok and like the things
Mhm.
that it fed me. I'm like everybody thinks this, everybody does this, and it's not that way. And it's like feeding our minds to like act a different way, and it's horrible. And social media just does that in general.
Yeah.
But it would just be not to be deceived by the people around you and to like stand firm in what you know is true. Just because everybody around you is screaming one thing, like let the truth be louder than that, you know?
Yeah. Totally. Totally. That's really good. Yeah. And I think that is what we run into is I was kind of the same way. Like I was deceived by social media growing up. I look
Right.
back on some of my old posts and like I didn't even realize like how, like looking back is kind of crazy. I like didn't even realize that I believed some of the things that I believed, and it was just because I
Yeah.
was like regurgitating what was on social media.
Right.
Um, yeah, so that's good advice.
It's definitely like scary looking back. Like, I mean, everything's archived from like things I used to post, but like I've looked back at like when Roe v. Wade was overturned, and I remember being like, they're literally taking away our rights. Like, oh my god, like things like that.
Wow.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
look back now, and I'm like, girl, please, like,
Wow.
like it's crazy, like the difference.
Wow. Wow. But that's so powerful. I love that. And I think that is another thing that we as like Gen Z are kind of experiencing is most of us did have that like turning away, or we're not, because the cultural narrative is so strong.
Yeah.
Um, and I really think that's actually like such a blessing from like that he's like gonna use that for his glory. Um, I don't know. I just think like God knows exactly what he's doing with that. And like he knows what our
Yeah.
generation needs. And the fact that we're able to like empathize with others through that. Yeah.
I totally agree with
So
you.
cool.
And like, I really do think, like, I wouldn't go back and change the fact that I, like, believed what I believe because I understand now, like, what the other side thinks and how they view us. And, like,
Yeah.
it's really, like, helped me be able to facilitate conversations with people. And like I think people are more willing to listen if you're like, I believed what you believe. Like I totally get what you're saying, where you're coming from, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It's like a superpower.
Right.
Um, okay, the other stuff I wanted to pick your brain on is like slightly veering topics, but I would love to know your creative process and like your mission as a creative. Maybe that's just personally because, I like art, but also I think since you are passionate about like sharing like new perspectives in art and like how we package this information, if that has anything to do with that, I would just love to know.
My main goal is like I just want to bring like the prettiness and the coolness that the left is able to do with politics, and I want to bring that to the right. Like I just want
Hmm.
to be able to show that, like, because I think Gen Z is so focused on aesthetic too, which I
Yeah.
get it. Like, I am too, like the way things look and everything.
Hmm.
And I want to be able to like show them that like conservatism can be cool and pretty, and like
Hmm.
it's not this like old people thing or whatever it is like people think.
Yeah.
And so I want to be able to do that with my artwork, and like
Hmm.
also just like as I get draw closer to God, and like my conservative
Hmm.
beliefs and things, like I just want to be able to share that with people through my art and be able to show that. And another huge thing just for me is being able to help share other people's stories through art. And
Yeah.
so any ways I can do that, like I love to do
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah.
That's amazing. Do you have a way that you like come up with ideas, or is it just kind of like something is sparked and you just know kind of the vision?
I feel like I always like write it down in my notes app, or like my reminders have like 20 reminders on them, because I'll be like,
Hmm.
oh, text this person about like this idea that I have to do with them or something. And
Yeah.
so like I feel like it'll just like kind of come to my head, and then I'll just write it down, and then I'll like develop out ideas. Like I always start with an idea and then make a mood board and then start to plan it all out, like why this, why this, why this, and then
Hmm.
like just kind of go from there and build out everything. If it's with like a client, I start with a mood board and then sketches, and then they like critique it, and then I like do
Yeah.
digital sketches then, and then we start to develop the product, and then just keep going from there.
Yeah. Awesome. That's so cool. So, if there's any like, Gen Z conservative creators listening, do you have any? I know I'm springing this question on you, but like, is there anything you would tell them for like making those ideas happen? Maybe either they don't like know how or they're scared to, anything like that.
I was actually talking to a girl the other day because I met another conservative artist, and I was like, "This is weird. I never meet
Yeah.
people like this." And so, like,
Yeah.
we were talking about that, and I was telling her like, I deleted social media for like 7 8 months. Like I'm so iffy about it, but
Hmm.
like I've just come to learn, like if you want to get jobs in this industry, like you just have to advertise yourself through social
Yeah.
media. And so like being willing to put yourself out there, like I'm at a point where like people can call me cringy, they can hate on myself, I don't care anymore. And so like being willing to put yourself out there and not care what other people think, and just
Hmm.
like make the video, share your art, share the content, whatever it may be, like that's the way that you put yourself out there in 2024. And so that's just kind of like what we have to do
Yeah.
now. And so I think just like being willing to just like step out of the bubble that you found yourself in, and even if you're going to get hate and lose friends, like you're going to find people that agree with you at some
Yeah.
point. And
Totally.
another thing is like not backing down on what you believe. Like not never
Yeah.
post an apology video. Like never.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
so against that.
Yeah. Totally.
So yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Yeah. I've kind of started to learn the same thing because I like started, my goal was musical theater, and the Lord very quickly was like, don't do that. And
Right.
so, yeah. But so I've kind of like gotten into a lot of different spheres of like new media. But I was so stressed when I started college because I was like, newly saved and like starting to figure out my beliefs, and I was like, no one's gonna want to work with me, like my career is dead. And
Right.
then over time, you're so right, like he has revealed to me, if you put yourself out there, there's people who want to like partner with you and link arms and who share the same mission. And truly I believe it's a very powerful mission. Like I always think about how the experimental movement like mainstream Broadway that we know today, it started in the 50s and 60s, and it was grassroots, and it was like countercultural and experimental.
Right.
And because they knew how to um, just keep working at it and like not take crap from anyone, they like dominated the mainstream that we know today. And like that is what our art um like can do. And
Right.
so that's, sorry, I'm like getting texts as I'm speaking, so I'm getting confused. I thought I was on do not disturb. But anyways, yeah. So yeah, I think what you're saying is so true. And um we really just have to like put ourselves out there and like be a salmon, swim upstream.
Hmm.
And who knows what like the art world could look like in 40, 50 years from now if we're
Right.
just willing to like make something that may not be so palatable for everyone, but that accomplishes like the purpose that we want it to accomplish.
Right.
So
Like I totally agree with you. And like I wonder like if you would what you would think about this, but like
yeah.
my goal used to be to like be able to like mend the relationship between the left and the right. Like that was a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
But ever since like a lot of what happened with the Chloe Cole project, my goal has been less of like being able to mend that relationship, and my goal has been more to like catch Gen Z's attention and keep the people that do believe in like Christianity
Yeah.
and conservatism and keep them on that wave rather than
Mm-hmm.
like I feel like it's so hard to get people to have conversation with me or to talk to me or that aren't just like filled with anger and rage. So I've
Yeah.
given up, not that I don't think it's possible, but I focus less of my mission on like mending that relationship and making it more just like, hey, stand strong in your beliefs, like don't back down because
Yeah.
like that's kind of where I feel like it's headed right now. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just want people that are already there to not like let it go, you know?
Totally.
But I
Yeah.
still want like to mend that relationship. It
Yeah.
just feels like it's hard right now. Like,
Yeah. No, I think that's, you're kind of spot on. I feel like I've noticed we are like lacking in that foundation still.
yeah,
Even like, we're just now getting decent like Christian movies. um
right.
yeah, and so I think I'm kind of the same way. Like I would really love to make something that does like stir the hearts of people and cause them to think in a different perspective. But yeah, I guess I agree. I feel like we have to like rally the troops first
Yeah,
and uplift other artists so that like creating good conservative Christian art is not so rare, but actually something that like we have, I don't want to say we have a system for, but that there's like people have gone before us. And I feel like we're still just now like trailblazing that a little bit. And I also think if we are creating that work and we're encouraging others to stand strong, there are going to be a lot of people who disagree, who look at it and think, well, like what do they have that's so powerful? Like why are people getting behind this? And you
right.
know, I'm sure, because I thought your photo shoot with Chloe was beautiful, and a lot of the things you've made have been really like gripping to look at. I'm sure a lot of those people that hated it probably were more so like unhappy with how it made them feel like artistically.
Right.
Um
Yeah.
because yeah, like I feel like the objective eye would have a really hard time saying that it was like poorly made or something, because you did do it well. And so then it's really a question of like, okay, I have to fully like address the content of this.
Hmm.
I can't write it off anymore. Like this is serious, and why am I being moved the way that I am by this artwork, and like how do
Hmm.
I address it and consider it more. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I
I've thought
totally
about
do.
that. Yeah. Like I think if we just like band together and like build that foundation, that people will start to notice. And yeah, I think like it's kind of just building up. I don't know. I'm thinking of like chainmail armor. Like we're just like building up the links of it right now, but eventually it'll be really impenetrable, and
Yeah.
people actually have to like start. I think it would start mending that gap in some way, because you'd kind of have to acknowledge it at some point. Like it's not
Right.
going away, it's just getting stronger. So
Yeah.
like how do we move forward together in this industry? So yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah, but I think yeah, that's, you have such a good perspective on it.
Thank you.
And a good mission too. It's like truly beautiful. And there, yeah, I really haven't seen anyone like fighting for that. Even with like the Daily Wire movies and stuff, I love Daily Wire and they put out really good stuff, but it's still so abrasive sometimes that I'm like, it'd be so cool to tell like a slice of life story that's just like not compromising. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think conservatives like we're still like working towards a lot of like being able to make the same quality of content that we see in movies. And I think the hard thing is like budgeting a lot of the times because like
Totally.
we don't have those same people behind us. And I think that's part of
Hmm.
like the grassroots conservative movement. Like we're all building this together. And I think that's something
Yeah.
really cool though. Like we're seeing the success, like the major success of a company like Daily Wire and like the
Yes.
impact they've made like on my life, on so many people's lives that are young
Hmm.
conservatives, people like Brett Cooper, like just the difference that they've made. I think they've just
Yeah.
done such amazing work, you know, and it's cool to see
Yeah.
so many people like build up that
Yeah. Yeah. That is true. And everything they've made has been like really, truly impactful.
yeah.
And you can see the creative eye behind it. And yeah, I would just love more like funding, like
Yeah.
more Daily Wires,
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, that's so good. So I guess that kind of goes into my last question for you, which is like, what do you hope to see from the conservative movement moving forward? It can be as an artist or just as, you know, a Christian conservative.
I mean, as an artist, I hope to see that like we take more steps towards like making things beautiful and being creative. And like I think the problem is we're so like there's a lot of intellectuals on the conservative side, and I'm certain there are also a lot of intellectuals on the left as well. But
Mhm.
like I think just that like we don't get so stuck in our own ways and things having to be like so cookie cutter, and like so old people, you know, I want to get out of
Mhm.
that and I want to reach young people and make it cool.
Yeah.
And that would be my hope for like the conservative movement, and for like my hope for Christianity is that like Christians don't let like wanting to be loving and accepting consume them so much that we start to deny what Jesus tells us, you know, and like we
Mhm.
don't start to live our lives different just to please people around us like I did. And so I
Mhm.
would hope that we see like more of Gen Z just standing up and being willing to say what they believe and not care about the hate. And I think we're
Yeah.
moving into a culture where people don't care about getting canceled anymore
Yeah.
because like so many like there's so many people where they were canceled and now they're like I don't give a crap. Like most people
Right.
just don't care now. And like I think a lot of people are moving towards that. And so I think that's really refreshing.
Yeah. Totally. I agree.
Yeah.
Great. That's awesome. Do you have any like last parting thoughts? Anything?
So this has been such a great conversation, and just like
Yes.
I didn't know that you were an artist too, so it's so cool like just knowing someone else in this area.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Yeah, it's been really cool to like follow your story, and
Thank you.
it's been encouraging to me too as well because I'm definitely still figuring out what God is leading me into, but I know that I just yeah have such a heart for like art that is like challenging the narrative. So yeah, love what you're doing,
Thank
and
you so
so
much.
happy we got to yeah talk and connect. Um, yeah, it's truly been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me on. I had a great
Of
time. Such a good
course.
discussion.
Yeah, totally. Do you have any socials or projects or anything that you want to plug?
Yes, my Instagram is Mags Butera, Butera, and my TikTok is the same. I post a lot of like commentary and stuff on there. And then my website is www.maggiebuteradesigns.com if any design needs. So
Awesome.
that's where you can
Amazing.
find me on everything.
Great. Yes, and for the listeners, we'll have that linked in the description of this episode as well. So,
Thank you
perfect.
so much for having me. It was so good to
Of
get to talk to
course.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right.
All
Have a good
right.
day.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, guys, that is all for our interview. I hope that you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I was so honored to have a conversation with her, and Maggie really just has such a heart for Gen Z. If you guys want to follow her or, hit her up for any design needs or anything like that, you can check her information in the show notes below. And that is all for this week. I'm so excited for you guys to continue going on this journey with me where I start interviewing people out in the realm, I'm so excited to continue this journey with you guys where I bring in people to interview and just learn more from. So if you guys have anyone you want to see me interview, please feel free to recommend them to the Counteract Instagram page, or even you can find my information in the show notes below and shoot me a DM, and I will try to make something work out. Thank you guys so much for listening. Love ya, and see you next time.